Hello, I'm Katie Knox, and this semester I've been researching the motif of movement in post-colonial art. So I'm sure you've heard this term migrant crisis, but what exactly makes it a crisis? I mean, migration is a human constant. And so one reason I believe that the movement of certain bodies comes to be articulated as dangerous and threatening is due to the European colonial legacy, which established and sustains a racialized hierarchy of human worth. And this is nothing new. At one point, France considered up to half of African countries as either a colony or protectorate. And so the movement of bodies indigenous to these lands, to France and to the rest of Europe, has long been unwelcome and has been restricted. And it's because of this restriction that I wanted to look at the motif of movement in French Algerian contemporary art as a form of resistance to this control. And I looked at several pieces and themes, but I want to focus today on the concept of mobile borders in Kader Attia's piece On ne présente pas les idées. The piece is comprised of a fence lodged with stones, and he invited dancers from La Compagnie Massalade to come and interact with the fence while the audience is seated around the outside. And so he created this piece in 2018 in response to the forced displacement of a migrant community in the outskirts of Paris. And this event, like many others, attests to the mobility of European borders today. The European Frontex border agency is in the business of offshoring border practices by placing checkpoints and walls in the interior of non-European countries. And meanwhile, the French police enact border policy in the interior of the country by displacing communities, and such as the event that inspired this piece. And so we can see that the border is not a line in the sand or on the map that we often think of it as, but rather it's constantly shifting in relation to who it's keeping in and who it's keeping out. So by placing the symbol of the border in the middle of the exhibition space, Attia is forcing the audience to turn towards instead of away from their complicity in the dehumanizing border practices their state participates in. And he counteracts the peripheral push. Another thing this piece accomplishes is it forces us to confront the vulnerability of the self-other boundary. I mean, even at the level of our own skin, this is a boundary that exposes us to the possibility of harm or care in another person's touch. And at the state level, one state's border exposes this country to all other people in the world. So there's an inherent vulnerability there, but it's how we respond to it that where we can find a new ethics or different choices. And so Attia, in this piece, he responds to the lived everyday experience of violence that many people face at the border, an experience of violent control over their movement and over their lives, by showing the dancers throwing stones at the fence. However, he also shows another form of resistance, and that is the dancers help each other over the border and through the border, and they connect with each other through it. And I think he's forcing us to reimagine how the border is not only this site of violent control, but we can also imagine as a possible site of mutual care. Thank you.